We're down on Tauranga Wharf and the sun's just coming up, so I just thought I'd take you through a bit of a history of this area for our family anyway, guys. So yeah, we started here mid-70s. Dad was here, so I'll show you around and take you through a bit of a history. So we've got the Alistelle here, which I'll be taking out on Tuesday. And in the 70s, this was a thriving wharf. In those days, all the vessels were owner-operators, so the knowledge and the vessels were passed down through the generations. So in the early days, we had, used to be a couple of gillnet boats parked on the inside here. And there was a cray boat parked where I'm parked. And that was basically their permanent berth. And then along here was generally trawlers. My first boat I ran down here was the Elsie Bell, and we used to tie up at this wharf. So there was the Elsie Bell and the Unaray. And then later on the company got the trawlers Lord Nelson and Rochelle, which I went on in later years to buy both boats, the Rochelle and the Lord Nelson. Fantastic boats. And there's an ice tower, that ice tower up there, it was originally put up there by Frank the Yank. And I remember hearing a story from Dad back in the day. Bob Parkinson had the Norseman, and I think he got the shits with Frank the Yank, and I think he put his trawl warp around it and he was going to tow the whole thing into the tide. Which, those of you that know Bob Parkinson, he didn't muck around. He didn't suffer fools. Yeah, he's a good bloke. Good bloke. Yeah, so Dad had a boat called the Margaret. He was trawling them down here. The Margaret, and he was paired up with a boat called the Alfred. Gordon Nicholson had the Alfred, and Dad was paired up with the Margaret, and he was also paired up with Pat Skelton, which is a fantastic guy. Pat had the Selena. So, and Pat's sons are still in the industry. They might have finished now, but they joined the Perth Seiners for Sanfords. And so the Skeltons had a very long history here. Again, it was one of those dynasties which Tauranga was made up of, the Reeds and Pat Skelton's family, and there's quite a few families that are still involved in the industry today. So this area here, I think there was just an old tin shed there, and it was basically a junk pile. There was a whole lot of old nets put in there and all that sort of stuff. It was just where everyone stored all their shit. And Dad got permission to build the fish market. In those days he didn't do fish and chips, it was just wholesale fish. It was called the wholesale fish market. So yeah, Dad built the shop, and I spent my childhood here. And here was where they had their smoko shed, and we used to have a little crayfish cooker. Well, it wasn't little, it was about the size of an old washing machine, which we'd have to drag through the door every night. So and that was one of my jobs, was cooking the crayfish every morning. And just down here, I used to catch whitebait when I was a kid. So I'd come down here and catch whitebait and walk it straight across to Dad at the shop. And he'd pay me for the whitebait. So it was a good gig. Yeah, so it was definitely different to how it looks these days. Across the road here there's a big car park now. That used to be a big warehouse facility, and it was run by Hilton Haulage, a big trucking firm. So they ran all that. And I used to be in that middle room. If I wanted pocket money, I'd be pinboning snapper and gurnard for my pocket money. And further down you had, there was a panel beater shop, and then there was some big silos, and they used to bring the concrete ships into here, and the concrete would be pumped across the road, I think it was overhead pipes, to basically where that red car is. Used to be big silos there that stored all the concrete. And this wharf here we used to call the top wharf, and it's gone. So there used to be a big wharf facility here, obviously for the concrete boats to tie up to. Morning. Yeah, it used to be a huge facility here, big wharf, but it's all gone now. There's just that part of it left. And Mike and Phil Geros, who built the vessel I'm running, the Alistelle, their dad, they had a big boat builder's workshop up here. And they used to do all the caulking on all the boats. I mean, all the boats were wooden in those days, most of them. So the Geros family had a big boat building shed here back in the day. It's the old Aorangi parked up on the mooring, and that's the sad thing these days, is the beautiful old ships, the old wooden boats are slowly but surely getting turned into houseboats. It gets to the point where the surveyors say, hey, we want you to pull out the fuel tanks to refasten the hull in between, behind the fuel tanks, and it gets too expensive. So sadly they they end up either derelict or turn into houseboats for hippies. Yeah, so lots have changed in the days. So over the road there used to be the Tauranga Hotel, and that's where all the fishermen would go and drink. And the story was it was 50 paces to the pub and 200 paces back to the boat. So, and we did have a death. There was I think it was a visiting fisherman, fell in the tide at the wharf after being at the pub all night, and there was a brand new cod end sitting on the wharf, and they used the cod end to retrieve the body, and after that it was put on the scrap heap. No one would have that cod end on their boat. It was bad juju. Yeah, so it's a lot of history here for our family. And as I say, it's one of those ports where there were fishing families, and those fishing families are still here today, and fantastic guys, the whole lot of them. Great bunch of guys. And obviously very talented fishermen as well. Yeah, so lots of memories.